Brooklyn 122. Washington Wizards 123. Another L for us tonight. But we're here in New York City. Let's talk about it. Sam, I've got nothing. Go, you go.
All right. So we are. What are we now? We're 7 games into the year, below 500, and I think you can look at this game in two different ways. And I think so far this year, I think you've been more negative than I have, which is a little bit of a switch because I think typically I'm kind of the pessimistic, neurotic Jewish fan, and so I got all my neuroses in me. But but so far this year, I've been a bit more positive. So the way that I'm gonna split this analysis up is there's two ways to look at this game. Positive lens, like my grandpa says, like look at the glass half empty or half full. Half full is they played absolutely terribly and still had two clean looks at the game. Negative is they got two clean looks and they were so freaking lucky because they honestly should have lost this game by about 25 points. And there were multiple times that either Westbrook did something awful or Bertans was wide open for a three and didn't hit one that would have been a huge momentum killer. So, Eve, I give it to you as my partner in crime. Do you want to take the glass half empty or glass half full approach?
There is no glass at all. This is so when you see someone like Sean Marks do some of the things that he's done, you have nothing else left to do but have faith, right? You sound like the village idiot on Twitter screaming, "This is an incomplete team. How are we going to defend on the interior?" And what do these superstars traditionally do? What are their teams that have been successful in the makeup of those teams? What do they look like, right? I had inclinations in my mind. Everyone knows what I've said about this team. And if we're being grown-ups, right? You go, yeah, even the Miami Heat started 9-8. You know, it can't. It's so early that you couldn't possibly be able to tell what's really going on from this. But the reason why this is so disconcerting and the reason why this is so troubling is all of these things that are wrong could have been predicted. This dude, I'm trying to remember his name now. Now I've lost it because I want to forget. But this dude had 7 freaking dunks in the second half. Excuse
Thomas
me,
Bryant.
Thomas Bryant. Yeah.
He killed him.
Just absolutely destroyed them, right?
And by the way, dunks with no, I don't mean to interrupt you, but dunks with basically no one even like within 3 feet of him.
Exactly. Rui Hachimura had 15 points tonight, and it looked effortless. He shot 54%. He was 6 of 11 from 6 of 11 this evening. And he's not Russell Westbrook and Bradley Beal. And what are we doing on the other side in retrospect? We're sending Joe Harris on suicide missions. This roster, I succumbed to it. I said, this is not modern basketball. Basketball changes every 10 years, right? You had the Jordan era, which introduced you to what Michael Jordan would do and Kobe Bryant would do for the next generation, and they developed all these players that were 6'6" to 6'5" to 6'8", that were in the Kobe mode, right? We're in the Jerry Stackhouse mode, the Vince Carter mode, right? But then that became the passe. The pace and space era came in. Now is another era in basketball where you have guys like Sabonis. They're not back to the basket power forwards. They face the 3-point. They start from 3-point line. They'll dribble drive on you and they'll score on you. And you want to know what? I'm not going to sit here and tell you guys that Julius Randle is a world beater. He's not. But every team needs to be able to contend with someone like a Julius Randle. And we're trying to do that with Joe Harris. It scares me to death that there's not a grown-up in that room talking to Sean Marks and saying, you know, this is the worst defense Kevin Durant has ever played with in his career almost. Besides his first 2 years at the Seattle Supersonics, hopefully coming back to the NBA. That's a great NBA city. But his first 2 years, forget about the PJ Carlesimo year that he played shooting guard. But he's been playing with Ibaka at the height of his powers for years. And then when he got to Golden State always had a center. It probably was a scrub, but they always had a center. They always had Klay Thompson, a perennial defensive player of the year candidate. And they always had Draymond Green, a defensive player of the year candidate every year. All NBA defense every year. And you guys are, and how did Sean Marks look at the makeup of this team and say, you know what? What we need is Landry Shamet. What this team needs right now to go ahead and play against these monsters, the Sixers are 5-1. They're coming. Their point guard is 6'10". And this is the lineup that has been constructed to go against what modern basketball does. When has a D'Antoni system won anything? It'll score a ton of points. But what I really believe coming into the season is, you know what? They must know something that I don't. Because I'm just some Twitter dork sitting at home looking at his stats. Sitting at home trying to figure out what the hell was going on in a box score. I shouldn't be able to see this crap. And for them not to be able to see it, I do not understand. I mean, listen, I know I beat this dead horse all the time of the Nets need to become bigger and more athletic. I say it all the time. I talk about it all the time. I'm sure everyone's tired of hearing it. But Sam, tell me, am I missing something? Am I saying something that's wrong?
No, I mean, look, I think there's a couple of things you got to look at, right? So every team, no matter how good or bad they are, I mean, obviously, if you're bad, you have more of them, will have a weakness or weaknesses. And so that's why I think there's kind of two ways to view the Nets season so far. You can view it as they haven't gotten what they expected to get out of a couple of different guys, which is I would say Karras has had a really tough year so far. I think he just hasn't had the offensive impact a lot of us thought he was going to have. And Shamet has obviously been a massive disappointment. Prince kind of goes in and out, and then they obviously lost Dinwiddie, which is why I think the rotations keep changing.
I'm sorry. I'm completely wound up, and I'm sure that's clear to the audience. However, let's address the Karras thing, because the Karras thing it might be a podcast in itself, because there's so many things in it. You know, why didn't we use him in a trade? What's wrong with Karras? Karras is on the bench. Karras is on the bench. And every time Karras has the ball, I look at defenses who are prepared to stop one or two things. He's either going to drive or kick. We have no other thing that we do well. There's nothing to make these defenses pay for selling out on stopping Karras. They're like, oh, we know what you're gonna do. You've got this move, the little hezzy. Okay, we're not gonna bite on that. All right, you're gonna throw the oop throw the oop to Jared Allen. Okay, we're not gonna bite on that either. And they could send as many bigs as they want at them because they don't have to defend Taurean Prince or Landry Shamet, who, because they play together, have less value. Neither one of them makes the team pay for some. When you guard the perimeter on those guys, or you hedge on them, it's not like they have two things they can do. They force Taurean Prince to drive every single time, and he can't, and neither can Landry Shamet. And the fact that this coaching staff, which is not being coached by Steve Nash, they're doing the same exact nonsense that they did under Atkinson. This is an organizational theory. This goes all the way to the top. This is Sean Marks, because Sean Marks did the grocery shopping, and all the groceries basically is shooting threes. For what? You can't get skilled bigs. You can't find another guy that is just going to help you go against the landscape of the NBA today. I want to blame Karras. I wish it was as simple as saying, oh, this is Karras LeVert's fault. But I see NBA scouts who are taking especially deep interest in the Nets because they're supposed to be a contender. And they're basically saying, you know what? I'm just going to go ahead, try. We've seen what Karras can do the past 3 years. The Nets don't have another gear, so I don't even want to blame Karras. It's as bad as Karras was shit. Let's not even try not to call a spade a spade.
So the reason why I bring it up though, and I totally hear you out on that. The reason why I bring that up though is that, so if you're gonna come to a battle, right? And let's say like the Nets are coming to the battle with a gun, a sword, and a fucking baseball bat, right? And so you know those three things are going to be there, and specifically the gun. But if the gun isn't working, then the fact that you don't have, let's say, any armor or something like that makes you hurt even more. And so what I mean by that is, like, the Nets went into the year, as we all knew and we all talked about, and you preach this more than anyone, that they weren't going to be that physical of a team. It was beyond obvious. They did not have any, like, as I tweeted about, they had no tone setters on the entire team. DJ used to be, he clearly isn't now. And so because of that, they weren't going to have the grit and grind Brooklyn mantra bullshit. So because of that, they had to rely even more so on finesse and shooting. And the loss of Dinwiddie, coupled with the fact that LeVert is shooting 30-something% from the field and shooting 20-something% from three, along with Shamet being a disaster, Prince basically, like, more or less being a disaster. I would say he's played a little bit better recently, but he's still, even when he makes the right, even like, because the standards for him at this point are so low, him making a three is considered good, but he's not really a plus player when he's on the court itself, which I think you'd agree with. And so because of that, you're coming to the battle now with half the weapons that you thought you were gonna have, and that's on top of the fact that you were lacking the armor for, like, defense and rebounding and all that grit anyway. And so that's all to say, like, look, there are teams that are built on finesse, and you can get by it to a certain extent if the other things are